Some mothers are remembered for their love and sacrifice, but others for something far darker. From quiet confessions to desperate claims of innocence, these final moments reveal more than their crimes ever did. Today, we're looking at mothers whose final words to their children weren't lullabies or advice, but chilling goodbyes spoken on death row.
What do you want to say to him? Just that you love him, right? Yes.
Judy Buenoano, the Black Widow. Our first story begins with Judy Buenoano, a woman nicknamed the Black Widow. In the early 1970s, Judy seemed like an ordinary wife and mother, but behind closed doors, she was plotting a series of murders that would leave a trail of bodies and insurance payouts. She poisoned her husband, James Goodyear, with arsenic, collecting nearly $250,000. Years later, she staged a canoe trip with her disabled son Michael, but only she came back alive. Judy claimed it was a tragic accident, yet investigators later revealed she drowned him for $20,000 in insurance. Her scheme might have continued, but in 1983 she went too far. She tried to kill her new fiancé by lacing vitamins with poison, and even planted a car bomb. He survived and exposed her crimes. The truth unraveled. Exhumed bodies revealed arsenic in her first husband and son, and she was connected to other suspicious deaths. Convicted of multiple murders, Judy became the first woman executed in Florida since the 1800s. On her final night, she shared communion with her children, Kim and James Jr., saying one last goodbye. But Judy wasn't the only mother who poisoned those closest to her. Velma Barfield, the caregiver, with a deadly secret. Velma Barfield seemed like a loving nurse and caretaker, but her secret addiction to painkillers fueled a string of murders that shocked North Carolina. She poisoned her fiancé, Stuart Taylor, with arsenic-laced beer after he discovered she'd been forging his checks. What stunned investigators was her confession. Taylor wasn't her first victim. She admitted to killing her husband, her own mother, and even an elderly woman she worked for. Velma was convicted and, in 1984, became the first woman executed by lethal injection in the United States. Before her death, she thanked her family for standing by her, a chilling contrast to the lives she had destroyed. If Velma hid poison in a beer bottle, our next case buried the truth beneath a wishing well. Betty Lou Beets, the wishing well widow. Betty Lou Beets' story reads like a grim pattern of marriage and murder. In 1983, she shot her fifth husband, Jimmy Don Beets, and buried him in her yard, right under a wishing well. To cover her tracks, she staged a boating accident and even had her son help move the body. When police dug deeper, they discovered the remains of her fourth husband, Doyle Wayne Barker, also buried on her property. Betty Lou claimed self-defense, but the evidence painted her as calculating. Convicted of murder, she was executed in Texas in 2000. In her final days, she expressed fear and love to her children, words far different from the actions that led her there. But for some mothers, the tragedy wasn't about insurance money. It was despair from within their own minds. Christina Riggs, the broken mother. Christina Riggs's case still haunts Arkansas. A nurse struggling with depression and heartbreak after her fiancé left her, Christina decided she couldn't go on. And tragically, she didn't want her children to go on either. In 1997, she injected her 5-year-old son and 2-year-old daughter with drugs stolen from her hospital, then smothered them. Afterward, she tried to take her own life, but survived. When confronted, she confessed, saying she only wanted peace for herself and her children. What made her case even more unsettling was her request for execution. She told the court she wanted the death penalty so she could be with her babies. In 2000, at just 28 years old, she was executed, telling the world in her final words that she loved her children and longed to be with them again. If Christina's case was heartbreaking, the next one was coldly calculated. A mother who killed not out of despair, but greed. Frances Newton, the insurance murder. In 1987, Frances Newton shot her husband, her 7-year-old son, and her baby daughter. Her motive? A life insurance policy worth $100,000. She hid the murder weapon in an abandoned house and tried to blame her husband's drug debts. But evidence tied her to the killings, and she was convicted. What made her story controversial was the Houston Crime Lab scandal. At the time, the lab was under fire for botched evidence and contamination. Newton's lawyers argued her conviction couldn't be trusted, but repeated appeals failed, and forensic testing continued to point directly to her. In 2005, Frances was executed in Texas. Until her final breath, she insisted she was innocent, claiming she was dying for a crime she didn't commit. But in Virginia, one mother took a different path, hiring others to do the killing for her. Teresa Lewis, the mastermind. In 2002, Teresa Lewis planned the murder of her husband and stepson for a $350,000 insurance payout. She promised money, sex, and access to two men who carried out the killings while she waited in the next room. What shocked the public was not just her role as the mastermind, but her lack of remorse. She rifled through her husband's wallet while he lay dying. Her defense pointed to her low IQ and dependent personality disorder, arguing she wasn't fully capable of making such decisions. But the courts disagreed. In 2010, Teresa became the first woman executed in Virginia in nearly a century. Her final words were for her daughter: "I just want Kathy to know I love you, and I'm very sorry." And finally, we come to one of the most disturbing cases of child abuse ever uncovered in Texas. Lisa Ann Coleman, the final chapter. Lisa Ann Coleman was convicted in 2006 of capital murder involving a young boy, Devontae. Prosecutors argued that the circumstances of his death included elements of severe neglect and mistreatment, which made the case one of the most widely discussed in Texas at the time. Her defense appealed the conviction, particularly challenging the kidnapping element, since the boy had been confined within his own home. The courts, however, upheld her sentence. In 2014, Coleman was executed in Texas. In her final words, she expressed deep remorse and asked for forgiveness from Devontae's family.
These cases remind us of a truth that's hard to face. The people we expect to protect and nurture can sometimes be the ones who destroy. Each of these women left behind not just victims, but children, families, and communities haunted by their actions. And while their final words were filled with love, regret, or denial, they serve as chilling echoes of lives forever changed. The question remains: how does love turn into something so deadly?